Welcome, everybody, to the Simply Smart Business Podcast. I'm your host, Nicki, and I'm absolutely delighted to have Christine Fritz here with me today. She's the head of marketing at mindful.org and mindfulness.com, and we're going to talk all things business and marketing with Christine. But one of the things that she shared with me that she's passionate about, and as am I, as are probably many of you, is the authenticity, sustainability, and genuinely adding value when it comes to marketing the products and services that we're working with. So hello, Christine. Thank you so much for being here with me.
Hi, Nicki. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Absolutely. All right. So like I said, we're going to talk about all things business. And my biggest thing is definitely authenticity, but I love making things simple for businesses. The name of my business is Simple Sprout Studio, and it stands to reason because I feel like a lot of times we make marketing and business too complicated. Would you agree?
I would agree with that, definitely. I think sometimes we come at it from a perspective of how are we going to make someone believe in our product? How are we going to make someone want to purchase or want to join, rather than asking ourselves, what do people want? What do they need? And how can that align with my product?
Totally. I love that. Okay, so let's really kick into gear here by rewinding back just a little bit. I love how someone came to be in business, an entrepreneur, or just in marketing in general. So can you take us to your very beginnings? I'd love to hear what inspired you, what got you started.
So when I was just out of school, I thought I was going to be a professional musician all my life. I originally studied classical music and I did that for a while. And in the course of doing that, I realized once I had kids in my early 20s that that sort of lifestyle was not anymore. It was no longer aligning with the lifestyle I wanted to live with my family. So I moved more towards the recording and digital rights management, and I worked for a small record label. And in the course of doing that, working with bands and film producers, I learned that one of the things that a lot of these creatives had difficulty with was not creating an amazing product or something that could bring value or really move people and help them discover more things about themselves. Those deep things were there, but how to actually find their audience was something that they really struggled with. And so just very casually at first, I started doing the graphic design, making the websites, getting events booked for them, and basically realized, hey, I'm now doing marketing more than I'm doing music.
Yeah.
And then I went back to school and studied business administration, focused on marketing. I started my own consulting agency and started taking on clients and helping them to find their audience or to launch their product and developing those strategies. And that's what brought me here today.
That's amazing. So do you still have that passion for music and still like to work with musicians a lot?
I do very much. And I enjoy playing casually, just, for fun. It's one of those things that you don't want to see go out of your life completely.
Sure.
It's more exciting for me when I can find somebody who is doing work that I'm really excited about, whether they're a musician or a filmmaker, or they've developed an app around music production or AV visualization or anything like that. Those kind of projects are really exciting for me and fun too.
Yeah, very cool and creative. I mean, there's no, candidly, there's no greater creativity as far as I'm concerned. I've always been like a painter or drawer, things like that. So musically has always come a little harder to me. So I have great respect for musicians and anybody that's musically inclined. What did you play?
I
What did
played
you
the
sing?
violin and sang, and later it became more of like a fiddle thing. So I would play with
Cool.
bluegrass and rock bands. And yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Fun is that? And do your kids play?
My son plays the guitar, and my older child is not really musically inclined, but I tried. I put a violin in both their hands the
Yeah.
moment they were able to hold one.
You have to see, right?
Yeah.
My son tried out the piano for a little while. It was not for him.
And
But
that's
you
fine
have
because
to
we
try.
all have to find what our thing is. And my son, he's great with his hands, and my older child is in electronics.
Nice.
I don't know how those things work, like building circuit boards.
Like engineering.
Yeah.
Nice. Very cool. Very eclectic children. I love that. So it sounds like as you were making that leap from music to business, did that feel like a big change for you, like a big leap, like you were just going for it, or did it feel very fluid?
It was very organic. In
Yeah.
fact, for a couple of years, I didn't even realize it was really happening until I was actually looking for a new full-time job, and I kind of like put in what my day-to-day skills were or tasks that I was doing. And I realized at that moment, I was like, wait, I'm actually a marketer.
Yeah. How cool is I love when that happens because I feel like when you make that sort of hard stop, left turn sort of a situation in your career, something's not jiving already, but if you're just ebbing and flowing with it, something's going right and it's you're just sort of taking the natural course of things. So that's
Exactly.
really powerful. Is there anything that you would have changed about your journey? Like as you were going through it, do you wish that you would have gone to business school earlier? Are you happy with the way that things have gone so far?
That's right on point. Obviously, when I had decided I wanted to go into entertainment as early as like middle school. I was maybe 10 or
Wow.
12, and I was really passionate about it. I went to the Peabody Conservatory's preparatory school because I was going to be a concert violinist. And I had a lot of people in my life who tried to share their experience with me that that was maybe not the most sustainable career path, that I might want to have a backup plan, which at the time I found super offensive and absolutely rejected.
Why do I need a backup plan? I've got this.
Yeah. And so I wish that I had asked myself, if I want to do this, how can I do it in a way that's going to provide me with the security and lifestyle that I'd like to have?
Mhm.
And actually made that plan. But it's hard to think that way when you're 17. So
Totally.
yeah, I probably would have liked to have gone to business school at least at the same time so that I had those tools to make sure that I had the best chance of succeeding in my own business that I could.
Sure. But good for you for going back because I know a lot of people don't. They say, well, maybe I should, but then don't end up doing it. So that's amazing that you went back and committed to it. Did
It
you
was
have,
a lot.
yeah, did you have kids already at the time?
Yeah. So
Yeah,
my kids were,
it's amazing.
I think they were like maybe 12 and 14 when I went back. And so they were in the
Wow.
thick of high school and all these
Yeah.
activities, and I had a full-time job. And yeah, it was a lot, but sometimes you just have to push through. You have to like open your mind to, maybe I can handle more than I think I can. And I did. But then at the same time, it was definitely towards the end of it, it was starting to feel a little burnout-ish. So I think that's another learning this is not about business or marketing necessarily. Learning to recognize the signs of you being overstimulated or overtaxed or not getting enough rest if you can recognize that early, you can really perform better throughout your life. And that's something that I definitely learned both in that time and then through the pandemic when we were all going through quite a bit. Just in that, I was like, wait, it's time to take a step back because I can feel that too
Hmm.
muchness creeping in. So watch out for those signs that you're taking on too much. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's huge. And I think it's definitely a business and I mean a huge life skill, right? I mean, I work with a lot of moms, a lot of mompreneurs, and just entrepreneurs in general. We just naturally tend to take on too much. And it reminds me of those throes of like in that newborn phase of having a baby and just wanting to do all the things, but you can't, and that's okay. And just knowing it and like you said, recognizing those signs and noticing and just being not to overdo the pun, but being mindful of everything that's going on.
Mindfulness is such a huge tool to
It,
actually help you manage those things, though. And that's why I'm so passionate about the work that I'm doing with mindful.org and
yeah.
mindfulness.com. This is one of my favorite projects that I've ever worked on. I've been with them for about 2.5, almost 3 years. And it is so great to hear how people find that mindfulness practice can support them in their lives, no matter what they have going on, whether they're moms, whether they're a high powered executive, whether they're in school and there's a lot of stress, or if they're entering a new phase of their life, if they're dealing with grief, if they're dealing with aging. It's basically something that's always there for you to kind of find your center and reconnect with your reserves and know like where you really are, what you're really dealing with in that moment, and get things back on track. It's what I find that it helps me with.
Hmm. 100%. And for me, it's always, I feel off in my body in some way first, and then I have to sort of reconnect and body scan. I do that a lot with my son, actually, like bodies, like what's going on? Where can we find it, So does mindfulness and mindful.org, do they help with those specific attributes, or what kind of tools can people find there?
So Mindful is a media company, not just an app and not just a website. So we have so many different tools that people can use to learn about mindfulness, to build a mindfulness practice for themselves, and to address specific issues in their lives with mindfulness.
Awesome.
We have mindful.org. We have a free newsletter, articles that you can read, and then you can purchase a subscription to mindful.org. It gives you access to the website, and we also have a print magazine that comes out once a year, which people
Fantastic.
love. We've been doing that for 13 years now, and it's
Wow.
really something that people really love. We stopped making a print magazine for a little while, and there was so much excitement about it that we did bring it back this past year. We have
Nice.
that. And then if you upgrade to premium on the mindful.org side, you get access to over 35. Usually you can get one of these mindfulness courses for $100 or $200, but for all of the courses, it's $169 per year.
Mm.
And that gives you all access to all of these courses and discounts on all of our events, early access. So that's on the mindful.org side. And then mindfulness.com has a really well curated app with daily video coaching, meditations. You can change the length of the meditation to whatever time suits you, whether it's 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, and also has some additional courses within that app.
Mhm.
And there's sleep stories and just a ton of information in there, and people love that as well. So that's a completely kind of separate item that you can choose to have. And then we're also developing an app on the mindful.org side, so that would then, so it's kind of, it's a big smorgasbord of options for how you
Yeah.
really want to interact with mindfulness, figure out what works for you. We also do um, custom corporate mindfulness packages. So if
Amazing.
you'd like to offer that as part of your employee benefits package or in your company's portal, we can set
Mhm.
that up for you. Speaking engagement, all kinds of fun stuff like that.
Very cool.
Basically, anything to do with mindfulness, we've got you covered.
You've got it covered. That is so cool. And I love the push on it, especially from the corporate side, because I feel like it's just not done anymore, right? Like people are just kind of like, do your 9 to 5 or maybe a little bit more in some cases, and give us all that time and then just go home and live your life and come back the next day, and it just is what it is, rather than treating employees as a whole person. I think for entrepreneurs, especially too, wearing all those hats, it's hard to even treat yourself as a whole person and truly take care of yourself. Like you were saying, sleep, I mean, it's a non-negotiable, right? And we all have missed out on sleep for one reason or another in our lives. And so having that tool, that resource is just huge.
Absolutely. And we can make it really accessible
Mm.
for any kind of budget level. Um, and the thing that really makes it make sense as an option for business is that when you offer your employees mindfulness as part of the total compensation package, it actually improves your retention. So you're going to end up saving money and increasing revenue just by providing that as a resource, so that people, when they do start to feel that sense of burnout or maxed out, where they need to find a way to communicate, they have those resources instead of feeling like you don't care and they're replaceable. This gives them a tool to go to, and it's super affordable. Yeah, it's
That's
something that I'd
huge.
like to see a ton of businesses start to do, whether it's with our product or any mindfulness product. If you can offer your employees a tool where they can work with those feelings and like manage their stress and actually expand their performance by working on improving focus, improving their thought process,
Mhm.
it's such a great investment.
Oh, that's amazing for all of us, right? I mean, that's incredible. I definitely need to check out more about this for sure. And I know a lot of people listening are going to say they're going to pop right on the website. So that's amazing. So tell us a little bit more about what you actually do day to day as head of marketing at Mindful and Mindfulness.
Sure. So we're a scrappy startup. It's a small team, and that has, the next words are going to be, that means everyone wears a lot of hats.
Yeah.
So from the things that are most core to the function as head of marketing is doing market research, creating the marketing strategy, looking at potential new clients, building the pipeline, looking at the user experience and those journeys, all of those things. But at the same time, I'm briefing out campaigns. Um, I do the advertising sales, and in a collaboration with our COO, Gary Lloyd, I do the B2B sales. And then we're also very cross-functional. So I'll be talking with our head of product, and we'll be working on developing what's going to come out next, or I'll be talking with the dev team about a new functionality in the app. And then just basically even diving in and answering a couple of customer service emails. I think it's really good to stay connected to that, hear what's coming back. So I like to jump in there sometimes. Yeah, that's pretty much my day.
That's a lot of stuff, and that's amazing. But like you said, it's a lot of different hats. As you've gone through, especially in your business life, sort of your second career, have you seen or experienced any failures that come to mind as far as like that was a really good learning, or I wish I hadn't done that way? Because I'm really big and I'm very anti-regret. So that's why I don't want to say, do you have any regrets? Because I believe everything teaches us something ultimately. But has there been a situation that you've gone through where you're like, either I wish I had learned something, or I wish I knew something, or I really learned this big lesson from it?
I can think of so many failures. I think anybody who's successful in their life, success comes from repeated failure, and
Totally.
you just get back into it. If I could think of one thing that really just kind of still rubs me wrong is anytime that I've let a team member down by not if I get busy and I'm not hearing them say that they need support. And so often people will work beyond their capacity. People will take on more than they really can or should. People will try to, if something is not quite going right, they'll try to solve it and try to solve it and try to solve it. And then you don't hear about it until they are basically ready to leave, or until something quite unpleasant has happened, because you're not in communication on the level that there's that trust to say, hey, I'm really stressed out. Hey, I really need some help on this project. Oh, this client conversation is really not going well. We can't get them through their renewal. I don't know what's going on. Figuring out how to make sure that you have that trust and that you are diligent about staying close and having those conversations and being genuine and authentic. And it's not easy. It's not something that you just flip a switch and do. Sometimes you're still going to fail to see. Sometimes you're still going to miss the thing that maybe somebody's got something going on at home and they're not showing up the way that they want to. And you're seeing it as, oh, this is a performance issue, rather than there's somebody in my team that I care about that needs some support, needs some help. Something's going on, and I have to find out what it is rather than make it into this is a you problem.
Right.
That would be the learning.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a whole person. I mean, you're managing a whole person, and we all have different complexities and certainly different levels of transparency too, I would imagine. Some people are like, I tend to be just very open. I put it all out there, like this is what's going on with me. But I know there's a lot of people, especially in more corporate life, where it's like that feeling of like I have to be reserved. I can't share too much. That's my personal life. This is my work life, and kind of keeping those two separate. So is that tough to navigate as well?
Of course, and everybody's comfort level and boundaries are going to be different. I mean, it's more a question of, have you made the effort to know the people that you work with? Have you, are you continuing to make sure that you're maintaining those relationships? If somebody wants to have a stark boundary between their work and their home life, I respect that. I'm very much that way myself. But at the same time, I know that I need to be able to communicate to my superior, hey, I'm going through some stuff. I really need your support, or I need to take some time off or something like that. And just facilitating that conversation and communication with each person in the way that they need it.
Right.
You have to learn who your team is.
Yeah, and that's such an incredible skill, certainly. I mean, even I think about different levels as far as like your team, your superiors, your boss, if you have one, and then your clients as well, right? Like maintaining all those relationships. So do you have any good advice or thoughts as far as how you best communicate? Like, do you like to, check in with everybody once a week, or just have sort of that regular communication, that flow going just as you intuitively feel it, or what works best for you?
I definitely try to have an open door. and reach out to people and have at least some sort of connection at least once a week with everybody that I work directly with. Um, and I think it's something that we can always continue to improve. If I was going to give any advice, I don't think I'm like an expert in this. I'm not like a behavior expert. I'm not an HR expert. But for me, I think if I'm real with you and I show up as a whole person and I let myself be a little bit vulnerable in ways that are appropriate, man, I had such a day today, or I'm really struggling with this project. I don't know how to do this. Does anybody know how to do this thing that I'm, like just let myself show up as a full human being. I think that invites it. And then ask the question,
Mhm.
hey, you seem a little stressed. Is there anything on your workload that is challenging? That do you have the tools you need? How's your workload? And just ask the question.
Opening that door. And I think my entire career, I've been doing SEO marketing for almost 20 years now. And I find that that person to person skill, that interpersonal skills, communication skills are still like when you have it, you have it. But for a lot of people, it's learned, right? We still have to learn. And so it's not always easy for people to have that communication and find that opening and offer others that opening. So it's a good reminder, I think, for a lot of people to remember to do that.
And I think also as we're becoming more open to talking about mental health and talking about neurodivergence, that's been really beneficial to the conversation that I have at work about these things. And I think it's going to continue to develop because we know maybe somebody is on the autism spectrum, maybe they have ADHD, maybe they have anxiety, and knowing that people might feel more comfortable talking about those things and not having it be stigmatized, I think that's really helpful in informing how you can communicate with your team.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And even I think we've seen in marketing wise that even if it's just a touch of vulnerability, like you said, enough that's appropriate and comfortable for everybody, it just allows that open door to happen for clients too, right? For them to see, okay, they're being open and honest and authentic. I can be safe here. This is a space that I can feel comfortable in, even if as a business, because 50, 100 years ago, there wasn't so much of that sort of touchy-feely part of business as there is now, which I love personally. Being able to do business with businesses that I love, businesses that are authentic, businesses that I know that we can discuss difficult things if it comes down to it, and that everybody's going to be safe and comfortable with that.
And I do think that for especially small and medium-sized businesses, that most businesses actually come from more of a touchy-feely place than people want to talk about or want to admit, because every single business was somebody's dream. There are billions, infinite ways that you could make a living in the world. So when you pick one, it's because it speaks to you. It's because it's something that matters to you, that you're passionate about. People have big feelings about their businesses, and that's a good thing. That means that they're there for the right reasons. So I think showing up as a whole person to help them grow and develop something that they're passionate about and that comes from a really deep place, that's pretty much always going to be a beneficial way to build that relationship.
Absolutely. I love that was such a good soundbite too, as far as the passion piece. Like you, I love working with passionate business owners because they're doing it for a deeper reason. I mean, we all have bills to pay, we all have to make money. That's what businesses are for. They're there to make money. And also that passion, that drive behind it is what makes good business, I think.
Absolutely.
You had mentioned, this is a good segue into this because I really wanted to talk about this with you. You had mentioned before that authenticity and sustainability and really adding real value is near and dear to your heart. Can you speak to that a little bit and how you implement that in the businesses that you work with, or how you can showcase that in marketing, or just generally speak to why it matters to you?
So the first thing is, when I'm working with a new client, the first thing I'm going to do is find out their why, of course, which is, why is this something that you're passionate about? Why have you invested in this? Why is this meaningful to you? And that, if I can get a really well-developed, deep answer to that question, then that basically does a lot of the brand work for me. It does that homework for me, because then I know exactly where to look and the kind of messaging that's going to resonate with the client that they have envisioned being benefited by their product when they invented it, or when they decided to invest in it. And then coming at it from the product development, message development side, I have to say, do your research. There's a reason why market research firms are really, let's say, they're really profitable. Do really well. They're not cheap. The reason is because when you can define what people are experiencing, what their pain points are, what their wishes are, what they're trying to solve for, and you can figure out who those folks are and what you can deliver for them. The only way you're going to find that out is by doing that research. And so it's actually doing the research and going to the metrics that help you provide authenticity. And especially if you can invest in doing some one-on-one interviews or some focus groups, I think not enough time is spent in doing genuine research. Not enough money is invested in doing research. Very often people think, well, I have my concept and I want it to be presented in this way because I know it's going to work. You know it's that would work for you, but you don't know how the people that are actually out there that actually have the need that you're serving, how they are going to need to hear it. So, and then talking about sustainability, I think, especially in the last maybe 15 or 20 years, I get excited about growth hacking too. I get excited about 10xing things too. But when you look to grow really rapidly or try to go viral with your product, very often, if you're successful, it's the worst thing that could possibly happen to you because you're not ready, because you don't have the capacity to actually manage that. And then the service quality is poor. You just burn out and fizzle. So
Yeah.
if you want to succeed, figure out how to succeed and then plan for what you're going to do with that success and how it looks, when you get to X amount of sales, when you get to X amount. I think not enough planning is done. So if you think you're going to succeed in doing something, plan as if you really are.
Well said. Yeah. I think when you start to grow and you start to see those numbers, especially as a small business, it is exciting to your point. And it's starting to see some big numbers is very exciting for a lot of people, especially when it's driven by that positive mission, that great passion behind it. But if you can't scale it and you can't sustainably grow it, then it falls apart really quickly. And it's really sad because it happens to a lot of businesses.
And if you just had an answer for what you were going to do the day that you got 10,000 orders, if you just had a plan for how that was going to go, then you wouldn't be, failing, struggling in your basement, trying to label packages, and this is what happens at the very beginning of a great success. And if you can ride that, then, that's how you win, basically, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And to your point, I mean, I think a lot of the entrepreneurs that I've worked with, there's this sort of shift that has to happen in those early years of business where they go from the dreamer and sort of creating that idea to actually being able to implement it. That's a big jump to actually be able to do that and then to grow it on top of that. Like, do I need to hire more people? Do I need to outsource some things? It's a lot of decision making that has to happen. And to your point, just having a plan behind it, the what ifs. What if this happens? What am I going to do? I think that's brilliant to just at least have it ready for that day. Plus, then maybe you're manifesting it a little bit, which is pretty cool.
Absolutely. And then comes the hardest part is letting it go a little bit. When you see someone start to experience some really encouraging success and it is growing and they are maybe hiring folks, but then you often see this tendency to want to retain control of so many things. And it's totally understandable because you started doing it all yourself. You came up with it all yourself. But one person can't hold all of those things at that scale. So then you see founders and owners often really struggling with finding somebody that they can trust to do their strategy or to do their team management and not being able to let go. So that's always a challenge too.
Agreed. I know for me, I work with a lot of clients just on their blog posts, something that's seemingly very simple, something that I do every single day, but I have some in the camp of I have to read every single word. It's got to be perfect. It's got to be perfectly on brand. It's got to say such and such. And then I've got many that have gone through that journey and now they're like, I can let that go. It's just, like got all the information right. It's all accurate. Looks great. Let's go. But that's definitely a big learning is going from that, house of one to a house of many and being able to just let go. Do you have any thoughts or experience with that as far as working with entrepreneurs and like how do you let go? How do you go through that process?
So first I'll say you can stay in the camp of I need to see and hold and review every single thing. You can do that, but it's going to limit how much you can grow.
Totally.
And then I'll say I myself am not good at this. It is a struggle for
Right
me
there with
to,
you.
like, let's say even, I'm in the kitchen and I'm cooking with my 19-year-old son, and he's going to take on one of the dishes. And it's hard for me not to look over my shoulder and say, you need a little more cinnamon in that. But then I'm not actually spreading out the workload, right? Now I'm taking on a high degree of oversight of tasks that I've delegated, and that defeats the purpose of delegation. So for me to be able to do it is just checking in and remembering that I have a great team. I trust these people. I know that they're excellent at all of the things that they do. I know
Mhm.
they'll come to me if they have questions. And that if I don't let it go, that the delegation hasn't happened. And I
Mhm.
have to literally remind myself every time I have kind of the thought that maybe I need to take that control or check on this or to a super, I guess, micromanaging degree. No, because if you do that, you actually did not delegate that task.
Absolutely. Plus, how does that person learn at that point? How are they able to grow in that skill set when they aren't given the option to?
It also develops a lot of resentment when
Sure.
you don't trust an adult to do a task that they're expert at, a
Oh,
task that
yeah.
you've hired them to do that they've done 100 times. And then if it has to be checked 101 times, I mean, that just makes them feel, I guess, devalued.
Mhm.
And that builds resentment. And obviously we don't want people to feel that way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So whether it's your team or you're outsourcing to another partner, it's definitely important to acquire that skill set of delegation and just letting go a little bit more. I always think of it as and I'm including myself in this, that entrepreneurs and founders care so much about their baby, about their business. And sometimes I think it's about caring just a little bit less about the little things, right? In order to let it go, it's almost like you have to force yourself to just care a little bit less about it and know that it will be taken care of.
That's totally valid. And also, the trust but verify principle still stands, but
Mhm.
verify at a reasonable interval. That's what we have reporting for. So,
Right.
if you're going to check monthly, if you're going to check quarterly to see how the results from this project are coming along and then give feedback, that's an appropriate way of managing your need to still be involved and to make sure that you have oversight and things are moving in the right direction without actually still being day to day, every single task, unable to relinquish any control. And I do see that a lot with
Mhm.
entrepreneurs.
Yeah. And you can hold accountability too, right? I mean, you can ask an outsourced partner or a teammate to provide those reports, like you said. And this is actually a perfect segue because the next thing I wanted to talk about was a little bit more practical things as far as like getting into key strategies and tools and systems that you've used. Are there any that are absolutely essential for you in the businesses that you've worked with as far as like I have to have these project management systems, I love having this type of reporting? Is there anything that you have just really helped you strategically as far as tools go?
So I'm pretty flexible as far as which tools we use.
Hmm.
I do need to have a project management software. We currently we're in beta testing with a brand new project management software that's was developed by our previous head of product, Sebastian Cade, and it's called Traction.
Okay.
So I'm actually loving that. It's super flexible. It allows an amazing amount of customization and bringing in all kinds of external resources to have right there in the project management software.
Nice.
I've worked in Asana and Microsoft Project and Trello, and they all do what they do. But if you don't have a well organized project management software, then that things fall through the cracks very quickly, obviously. So it's great to invest in one. There are options that are freeware if you're just getting started, but just have something that's going to maintain task accountability and let you track what's going on, who needs to do what when. If you're not doing that, start doing that today.
Absolutely. I think that's a start before you're ready type
Yeah,
situation
for
in
sure.
most cases.
I think email, CMS, customer management platforms, client management platforms, depending on what your business structure is, you might want to have a HubSpot, a MailChimp, Intercom. You may, if you're more in, especially B2B sales, Salesforce obviously is the go-to. So something to help you manage your customer data, that is another big piece that has to be there. Even if you're just getting started and you only have 20 clients, you should still have that because it helps you build the history of those conversations and look at what worked and what didn't work and make sure that you're not forgetting anyone and that you can see people's renewal dates coming up, or if you have a
All of that.
promotion, make sure it gets out to everyone, all of those fun things. Then looking on the analytics side, you need to have some sort of an analytics platform dashboard. Google Analytics, Looker Studio, Databox, Mixpanel. These are all great tools. Have everything in one place. I should follow my own advice in that regard. We're working on making sure that everything lives in one place on our end, because when Mindful and Mindfulness.com came together about a year ago, a little over a year ago, there were two separate companies with separate sets of tools. So we're pretty close to having all of our reporting in one single dashboard now, but that's been a process. Definitely make sure that you have everything coming in, from the things that are driving your revenue to the things that are driving your traffic, looking at your SEO, Google Search Console, and then SEO tools like Ahrefs and SEMrush. Those are great to have as well.
Mhm.
Yeah, what else am I missing? Slack. Who doesn't use Slack,
Mhm.
I think, or some kind of messaging software? Google Chat is free and it's fine. But like Slack is so much of business is done in Slack these
Yeah, and
days.
you can, I feel like with Slack, you can get a little bit more organized,
Mm.
with different channels and things like that. Whereas with chat, it's not always the case.
No,
And
and it's
obviously
one-on-one or
less than
group
email.
chat.
Yeah,
So you can't have a group chat that's about a different subject with the same people and separate it. So
right,
yeah,
right.
absolutely. But so big fan of Slack.
Yeah, yeah, same here. And is there a situation that you could walk us through as like a case study or an example of how a strategy or one of these tools has helped you, whether it's at mindful or mindfulness or otherwise?
I'm sure there is. That kind of puts me on the spot for a minute. Let me think. I can say if we look at just like the last week, we were able to determine by using our Google Analytics that there was a particular link that, we had a campaign that went out that had a whole bunch of links where people could engage and sign up for different products. It was pretty complex. There were several different journeys, and one of the links was not performing. And so by looking at that analytics report, we were able to figure out that there was like a technical error on this really deep link,
Yeah.
and able to respond to that quickly. I guess that's like the
Yeah, that's perfect because that's a situation where if you're not looking at those things, then you don't have the information and you just assume that that product or that offering is just not performing because of the offering. It's not because of something technical or, otherwise. It's because, but it was. So, and you're
yeah.
able to see that. So I think that's huge. That's incredible.
And then we can also see often if you have something that has heat mapping, that's something that's really valuable. So if you can see where somebody navigated away from the page, or if somebody's rage clicking something that should be clickable and it's not, or like you didn't think
Rach.
it was, well, that's literally a category in
Yeah.
the form that we use. And yeah, so I think heat mapping people's visual journey on a page flow to figure out what's working, what they're clicking on, not necessarily just which ad placement or which link, but what happens in their browser as that's going on is
Mhm.
really useful too.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's incredible. So I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know you're super busy. So we'll start wrapping up with some ideas and some actionable takeaways, if you don't mind. So let's say there's an entrepreneur out there, they've been around for a little while, maybe 5-ish years in business, they're doing well. What do you think is one way? Because I know the authenticity piece and the sustainability is really near and dear to your heart. So what's one thing that you would say to them that they can do right now to help their business be more authentic or more sustainable?
There's so many things that could be the answer to this question, but I think it would be to just check in with yourself. You've been doing this for 5 years now. It's become kind of, maybe not going through the motions. You might be still really actively involved and excited about what you're doing, but go back to the beginning. Go back and look at at your initial business plan and what you hope to achieve. Try to imagine what that person who had the idea for this company in the first place would be saying to you in this moment 5 years down the road. And then answer those questions again. What are your goals? What are you trying to serve? Pretend like you're writing or write the business plan again. Go through and revise it like you're revising, an English paper. And, oh, well, I was wrong about this, or I now see this in a completely different way, or I want to serve these needs and I hope to develop this, that, and the next feature for my project. Don't just keep going forward assuming that all of the things that have become muscle memory for you are going to continue to serve you in the way they have so far. Go back and question yourself. That would be the advice.
I think that's amazing. Thank you for that. That was incredible. Well, this has been super insightful, Christine. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise and your amazing wisdom with us. I really appreciate it. And what's the best way for listeners to connect with you or learn more about, obviously going to Mindful itself, but is there some way to connect with you personally?
Absolutely. My contact information is available. You can email me. You can just connect on LinkedIn. It's Christine Fritz. I'm on LinkedIn at Christine Fritz, or I think the linkedin.com/in/ChristineOBX. You can visit mindful.org and sign up for a free newsletter. You can visit mindfulness.com and sign up for a free trial of the app. I would be excited to hear from any and all of you. Tell me about your projects. Tell me what you're excited about, or just check in about mindfulness if you have questions. I'm happy to answer. Thanks so much, Nicki, for taking the time and for inviting me on your show, and best of luck with your podcast going forward. This has been amazing.
Thank you. And I so appreciate you, Christine. And I'll, of course, in the show notes, I'll include all the links to you as well so that anybody can find you there. Wonderful. Thank you so much, everybody. And please subscribe to get this and the next interview on the Simply Smart Business podcast. And thank you again, Christine.
Thanks, Nicki. Have a great day.